I was expecting China to be like super duper busy and really crazy, but it's actually pretty calm and peaceful. I mean, there are like a lot of people, but it's not really overwhelming at all. The market was really, really cool. It's so different than what we have at home. We don't have bags of frogs and bags of turtles out. And what was really interesting was that they had a dentist office in the market, which was crazy. It was just like wide open.
How welcoming the people are to the people that are like learning their language. There's never been somebody who has not helped me if I've asked for help, or has not helped to come and aid me when I was couldn't put together a sentence and was trying to put it to words together. They're helping me, and it's been unbelievable how the people here have just been so welcome to me learning their language, and at least me giving it a try is what they, I think, like the most.
Yeah, I was expecting a little more air pollution due to the number of cars or industries, and that hasn't really seemed to be the case. Maybe I'm just so lucky on this trip. There are also many tour groups from different provinces in China because they also want to see the landmarks and also experience, the capital city or other major cities throughout China. So for me, it's not necessarily an oddity or an anomaly for me to visit China, even though I am Chinese.
I really like how the whole culture feels. It's different than the US, but it's similar enough that I can understand it. It's very traditional, it feels like. It's a very respectful and very kind group. When we went into the people's homes in the villages, it felt like they honestly wanted to show us their lives and how they live.
I feel like it's much more, this is my home, come experience my life, get to know our culture the way we live. And America, they're like that, but they're a little bit more reserved.
My favorite place that we did eat was at the host house that we were at in Shanghai, and it was just a great experience to be able to sit in a local person's house and actually eat what they would normally eat at a lunch that we were at, and the food was just phenomenal with Kung Pao chicken. The dumpling that she made was very good. The soup, it was just all amazing.
And I love the flavors. I love the flavors they incorporate, because I've never had authentic Chinese, and I love how they can take the heat in the north, the noodles, and still make it sweet and succulent. And then I think the best dish I've had so far were the meatballs. We had it was a meatball dish at the house back in Shanghai, and they were just it wasn't just a piece of meat. It was meat, and there were flavors in there. I couldn't just so many flavors, and it was sweet. It was hearty. It was delicious.
Food. It's so good here. I heard it, I don't know, I was a little nervous about it. Some people said it was iffy, but I really like it. My favorite was probably when we got to go to the home and they made us food. It's cool that it's such a different style of eating than we do at home. Instead of getting your own big plate, your own meal, you just everyone shares. And I don't know. It's more like a cultural experience because you can talk about it and everything.
Yeah, so the flavors I've experienced on this trip have more of a spice to them, especially in Xi'an, being in the northern part, and with my family from being from the southern part of China, I'm used to flavors that aren't as spicy, but the dishes are still similar in character with the ingredients and the preparation styles.
Best meals have to be either the one that's really known for that area, like how we had the bread soup with the lamb or the beef in it, and mine was so good. I got the lamb, and that was in the Muslim market in Xi'an, and that was so much fun because it's so well known in that area, and so you could tell that they had made that recipe 400 times, and that they'd gotten it down to perfection, and it was so good. And by the end of it, the lamb was totally just perfect in that broth, and it was so delicious. Well, my favorite people so far have to be our tour guides. I really love Lucy. She's our main person that goes around with us, and right now she's our main tour guide in Beijing. And they're all just so sweet, and it's so cute because you can hear their different accents when they speak Chinese, or the different parts of their city that they just love, and they just are so excited to share it with you. Like Tracy with the silk, Adam or Changgung with the warriors, and then we'll see with Lucy what she has to show us in Beijing. But it's just really nice to see how enthusiastic the people are about their culture and how excited they are to share it with us.
Definitely our tour guide Lucy has been unbelievable, because she's always been complimenting us on our Chinese, and she's just always been around us for the whole time, and just seems like she's such an amazing person. She learned English, and she translates everything for us, and she's always around to help us in case we have a problem.
The people have all been really nice, but I really have liked our tour guides. And Xi'an, Adam, our tour guide, he was just a great guy. He loved to talk, and he loved his job. He was great at it. He just kept going on about his personal experiences, like on the wall surrounding the city, how he and the other boys would play with crickets and make them fight. But just such a great, experience that we got that in-depth history.
Favorite people: Changgung, our tour guide, and Tracy, our other tour guide in Shanghai, was really sweet also. But there hasn't even been anyone that I didn't feel like a warm vibe from. They're all so sweet. And at first it's really scary to practice your language with them, but I never ever felt like they were frustrated with me. It's so comfortable. They're so welcoming.
The people in the villages, I think, have really made an impression on me, how outgoing they were and willing to share their culture, habits, their food, their time, energy, and space with us to share those values. I think that's really an important part of the trip. The meal we had at a family's home in Shanghai, that meal for me was special because the family actually sat with us and talked with us and really interacted, and at the same time, we could hear her cooking it in the room next to the dining room, and I think that interaction was special.
At the luncheon in Shanghai, our host, who was Auntie Wong, or Auntie Wong, I think, and we've experienced a lot, but she just made it articulate as just the warmth of the Chinese people, the hospitality. She took us into her home, she sat with us, she laughed with us. She didn't speak much English, but she still just gave off this, welcome. You're my family. And I just didn't really, I thought of the Chinese people as, work, hustle, bustle, just head down, walk. But no, they can take time and they can just be warm and hospitable, and you just feel so relaxed, so at peace.
But I think the biggest, what's hardest about it is just taking a risk. And once you get to the point where you can take that risk and you get more and more confident every time, it gets easier and easier. It's scary at first, but it's so cool to see that, the things that we learn in the classroom, they actually work. You can actually apply them and people will actually respond and you can understand them. It's, like I said, it's not easy, but it's really cool to see it in action, to see it working.
Well, coming in, I sort of had a broad vision of the language. I learned the basics of it and the sentence structures and things like that, but it's really brought in how hard the language is, but how easy it is to put it together if you just give it time and you just think about what you're going to say. There's just, I know most of the words already, and it's just one of those languages that you just have to relax when you're thinking about it. It's okay if you make mistakes, because the Chinese people here understand that, because you're just learning their language, and I'm just so glad that I took the opportunity that I could take this language, because it's one that really nobody takes, and it's just such an interesting language and has so much background to it that we've learned about since being here.
Throughout China, there are many different dialects, and one could say that with each dialect, there's its own small microculture. So you know, having grown up in one microculture and also being influenced by American culture, yeah, that doesn't truly represent what Chinese culture is. And also to understand that Shanghai culture is different from Xi'an culture, which is different from Beijing culture. It opens my eyes as well.
The language, just how sometimes less is more. Just saying a simple phrase like, how much is this, gets them so excited because so few foreigners take Chinese and come to China willing to learn the language and experiment with it. And so they get really enthusiastic if you say the most basic things. Like when we were in the Muslim market, again, Rosie and I were trying to order stamps from this man. And you know, we were saying we didn't want any English on the stamps, we only wanted the Chinese. And you could tell and we said it in Chinese. And it got him very excited and enthusiastic to work on our stamp. And so the language, I have to say, just being more confident and just, you know, saying the words you know, even if they're maybe not in the right order, then they help you out. They're very forgiving with their language. Or even when we went to the school in Suzhou, you know, we said ni hao and they flipped out. They were pretty excited, and then anything after that they were really excited to hear. And so, you know, it's very encouraging. It's really different to take it from like a classroom environment to a real life experience.
Come, definitely. It's so much fun. It's really good. We get close with everyone here, but we also, like, it's so cool to see a different culture. It's something that is really hard to experience in the States, and that, like, to be completely immersed in it is such a different experience than to learn about it, like, in the classroom.
They should go for it. I didn't know any Chinese, and I've been having a great time. I don't even take Chinese. So it's just a great experience to travel and see a different side of the world.
You can't be scared. You can't be scared. You gotta be open. It's cliched, I know, but you know, if you see a dish and you know, you gotta try it. Because when are you gonna have the opportunity again? When are you gonna have the opportunity to eat that dish, be with that person, be with the folk artist who paints the painting? And you also just take advantage of every single opportunity. Take advantage of it. When on the bus, don't just immerse yourself in your iPod. I know I'm a hypocrite because I always read my Kindle, but I try to peel myself away and look outside.
I think it's definitely worth it for a Westminster student to come, even though they may not have had the language exposure, because you can still get the cultural exposure. And with China being a fast developing world economy, it's important to understand where business competitors are coming from. And even if you're not involved in business, it's important to be educated about the world. And you can't do that from a classroom.
I always have to go out on a limb and take chances. Coming to China, I wasn't sure of what it was going to be like, sure if I wanted to be here, and I'm just so glad I came because I'd never have another opportunity, most likely like this, and it's just been unbelievable, and I'm so glad I came. It's just been a great experience.
It has to be one of the most rewarding trips I've been on, just because, especially if you take Chinese, it's a really rewarding process because your confidence builds up more and more. And even with the people on our trip who've never taken Chinese a day in their life, you know, you hear them beginning to say little things more and more, like 谢谢, you know, just thank you. Them being more confident in saying things like that, and, you know, building up their confidence in that language, even just the most basic things, it's fun for them. And you can see that it's fun for the local people to see that we're trying. It has to be the most rewarding trip I've been on.